First item we'll cover here is how to properly squat as a catcher. Working from the ground up, you can see the catcher is mostly on his toes here. That allows him to be ready to receive the ball all over the zone or to block the ball if needed. Moving on to the glove and the throwing hand, you can see here catcher is given a target that we prefer to be a little lower in the zone than shown here, but still a target in the strike zone. And for throwing hand, you can't see it for good reason. One thing we've learned from working with pro catchers is the safest way to keep your throwing hand is in fact not behind your back or tucked in your right shoe. It's actually tucking the thumb in a fist and keeping it behind the glove. Because as you can see here, there's no risk of the ball hitting the hand because the glove is covering it. The second position we allow our catchers to squat in is from a knee. We do this for one primary reason, and only when there's no one on base, and that is for stamina. On a busy weekend where we're playing 3, 4, 5, 6 games, especially on bracket day, and we only have 1, 2, 3 catchers, it's important to prolong their stamina. That way they're not tired out and can perform at their highest. Now, moving on to blocking when a ball is pitched into the dirt. One thing to always keep in mind is the goal is for the catcher to block the ball back to the plate and keep the ball in front of us. Shown here is a good blocking position where we've went down to block on both knees. We have glove on the ground with throwing hand safely behind the glove. We have chin to chest to prevent a ball from going underneath the mask and hitting us in the throat. And we are slightly leaned over towards the plate to keep that ball in front of us. As you know, especially with off-speed pitches, oftentimes this ball will be either inside or outside in the dirt to where we have to slide and block. And shown here, and talking again about keeping the ball on the plate in front of us, you can see as the player slides to block the ball, they are angled so that they will still block the ball back to the plate. Should the ball get past the catcher or simply a wild pitch, there is a proper and quickest way to go retrieve the ball and get it back to the pitcher or throw a runner out. And this is done with a knee slide. So the drill we have in place here is we put the ball by the net or backstop and have the catcher go retrieve it and throw it back. Next, we'll talk about footwork when throwing runners out should they steal. And that is to keep our feet on a straight line to our target. In this case, throwing a runner out at second base. So how we set this up is we put home plate right in front of a line. That way we know when the catcher pops up to throw the runner out, his feet are both on the line. And in this case, the catcher has done a great job. As you can see, both his feet are on the yellow line behind home plate. Next, we'll talk about the proper way to give signs to our pitcher. First thing, and shown here, is we have our throwing hand giving the signs very high and tight to the cup to prevent the base coaches from stealing our signs. Next thing in regards to signs is academy-wide, we want to be consistent with our signs. What does 1 mean? What does 2, 3, 4, the fist mean? And certain taps. So academy-wide, we want to follow these guidelines, but can always be changed, especially if we feel like the opponent has caught onto our signs. Academy-wide, we want 1 to be a fastball, 2, curveball, 3, slider or cutter, and 4, changeup. It is also best practice to have our catchers tap the inside or outside thigh to tell the pitcher where the pitch should be located. For example, fastball, outside. Never should we have our catchers line up directly middle of the plate. It is always best, depending on the pitch and the hitter and the velocity of the pitcher, to either line up inner part or outer part of the plate. Lastly and quickly, we want to talk about the fist sign, which means to pick off the runner at first, second, or third. So simply the catcher needs to give a fist and then a number 1, 2, 3 to tell the pitcher we got a heavy lead on one of the bases and for the pitcher to go ahead and pick off. Next, we are going to show you a couple of catching drills to use in your practices. The first few in regards to receiving, framing, and trying to steal as many strikes as possible. The first one here is simply no glove, rolling the ball to the catcher and having that catcher bring the ball up to a strike. Next, we'll add the glove while still rolling the ball, working on a few things. 1, framing up to the strike zone, and also keeping a flat glove. Why it's important to have a flat glove is even if the ball is not over the plate, but the glove is covering the plate, you will oftentimes still get a strike. So very important in this drill, when we roll it to our partner and they bring it up to a strike, they must have a flat glove. Next, we are now lightly throwing pitches to the catcher outside of the strike zone, requiring them to frame it back into the strike zone. Also focusing on flat glove. Final drill is a fun one, the goalie drill. Goal here is to get about 20 to 30 balls and rapid fire them all over the zone to the catcher and see how many get past them. And if you're working with multiple catchers, a fun competition in between the catchers to see who can allow the least amount of balls past them.